times, and I am delighted to welcome you to our webinar on digitized industry, the next big thing. Welcome to the revolution. We're honored to have, I think, a unique panel of experts from 3 continents in alphabetical order. Christian Hawken is Director of Industry 4.0, a digital industrial consulting firm associated with University of Aachen. David Vasco is Senior Director at Rockwell Automation, one of the premier industry facilitators in the United States and globally. And Jun Xu is the Chief Technology Officer of Huawei's mining team. Huawei is a global technology company which has been a leader in applications of 5G and digital technology in mining, manufacturing, and logistics. So I don't think we could have a better start to talk about what I think is probably the biggest thing happening, biggest trend happening in the world today. And I'd like to start with a simple question. As an economist, one of the paradoxes my profession has confronted for the last 20 years is that we have an enormous increase in productivity in digital technology in the IT sector. The cost of memory, for example, has dropped by a factor of 70 between 2000 and 2020. But in most parts of the economy, productivity, by whatever measure you choose, has been stagnant. So there's been a disconnect between the explosion of the IT sector and the relative lagging of the so-called real economy of making and moving things. So in a sentence or two, is this going to change? Are we moving into an era where the rest of the economy of things will catch up with the economy of bytes? So why don't we go in reverse alphabetical order, start with Dr. Xu from Huawei.
Hello, thank you, David. Thank you, Asia time. I think this, for me, yes, the short answer is yes, definitely. We are going to see a tremendous productivity increase because we apply all those digital technologies, including from AI, big data to IoT connectivities. Let me give a very short example using coal mining here in China. So the productivity that disrupt the productivity from the coal mine is really quite a few, I think, major causes. One is because of safety, right? When some situation happens, then the production has to stop. The mining from open pit to underground mining, the production needs to be stopped to rectify the security or safety issue, right? So that actually creates a big disruption into productivity. So with those new information, IT technologies, the digital technologies, we can really help with that. For example, predictive maintenance, right? So we can use those technology connected to the machine every second, every minute. So we monitor the machines proactively, and also we collect tremendous data from these machines. We can predict the trouble that ahead of ourselves, making adjustments. So that's actually for the coal mining or the mining industry in general. That is really help them, right? Is to have a very continuous, smooth production, right? So the other things very important to the industry is the increase into this equipment safeties, right? So let's see belt, the conveyor belt. So we can use those IT or AI technology, machine learning to monitor those moving belt, right, to prevent hazard from happening. So those are actually really help them to increase productivity, right? So just give this very short example. I think the big data, artificial intelligence, ubiquitous connectivity, that's really going to help many industries or many sectors in terms of increasing productivity. Okay.
Thank you very much. Dave Vasco, would you like to come in here, please?
Yeah, we're very optimistic about the applications of these technologies and how they're going to change things. So, and the truth is, we couldn't get here unless we had the updates, unless we had greater processing power, unless we had greater communications, both wired and wireless, and AI or machine learning that is really easy to use. And those are going to drive productivity in the future in the OT sectors. We've seen it already. It's going to be a little bit uneven as far as what industries roll out first and which industries are impacted the most, but we see tremendous opportunities there. What you're seeing is really being much easier to do these digital transformations to really make these enterprises productive. We first did many of things that were labeled Industry 4.0 some 25 years ago, but there were hundreds of people working on the projects to actually roll these out and make them productive. Today, it's a fraction of that. A handful of people can do those same sort of things because so much of the infrastructure, the foundational work is available today, easily available.
Dr. Hawken.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. So definitely the digital technologies out there, they have the potential to increase productivity. Yeah? And I think that will happen very soon and very rapidly. On the other hand, we need to have a close look on the market structure and how the industry for digital technologies are developing over the past years. And what we see here is that corporates are definitely adopting those new technologies already. Yeah, and we in terms of scaling and scalability, we see a lot of improvements. On the other side, we still have a lot of small and medium-sized companies, at least in Germany, and they are not really the front runners often enough. Yeah? So they wait till that new technology becomes affordable. So are we there yet? I don't think so. But will the technology have the potential to get there and to increase profitability? Yes, definitely.
Well, Dr. Hawken, let me drill down on that question. The term fourth industrial revolution was coined by, I believe, Klaus Schwab at the World Economic Forum. And like many such rubrics, we wonder if it's a bit exaggerated. When we talk about this fourth industrial revolution, is it really a revolution, or are we looking at a sequence of incremental changes? When we talk about the application of artificial intelligence, big data, fast broadband, and so forth to industry, can we really compare this to the advent of the steam engine or the railroad and electricity? Is it that level of transformation?
Well, that's a very good question. At least the fourth industrial revolution is the first revolution that we called a revolution actually before it happened. Yeah? So that's for sure. But I think you can look at this from two angles. The first angle is that you start looking from the measures we are taking. And the measures are the ones that you've just mentioned here. So we're talking about integration, artificial intelligence, next wireless communication technologies, those kind of things. And for me, these technologies as such, they are not revolutionary. Yeah? So it's more like incremental changes. So this is the one angle you can take. Looking from the other angle, looking from the overall result, I think the fourth industrial revolution will become a revolution. And I can tell you why. Because with that technology, we will see changes that go far beyond the technology itself. Yeah? So first off, we'll see changes in the way we take decisions. Yeah? In the future, we'll take much more data-driven decisions. This is what we'll see in our personal lives with the mobile phones we have in our pocket. And this will more and more come to the industrial world. But this eventually will lead to a change the way organizations work and the way organizations are built. And considering this, I'm pretty sure it will have a big impact on our work life and our day-to-day life. So, and if you take it that from that angle, I'm sure that it's valid to talk about an industrial revolution. Yeah, if it's as powerful as electricity, steam power, robotics, well, time will tell us.
Dave Vasco, would you like to comment on the revolution versus evolution question?
Sure. So there's definitely an evolutionary element to this. There's incremental changes as far as the technology is rolling in, and we're seeing adoption really being uneven. So the large companies are adopting these technologies, just like a wave rolling into shore. The large technologies are the companies are the first ones to adopt this. The medium and small will be adopting this, and we'll continue to see them adopting this. And as they do that, you're going to see this greater level of flexibility, this agility that will occur. And that the need for that agility and the resiliency has really shown itself in the last few years. But that's really going to change how we operate, how we interact, how companies work with each other in order to solve problems in the future. And that will be a revolution.
Dr. Chun?
Great question. I think we're debating about that all the times, right? When we discuss about this from 2016 when Mr. Schwab first wrote that book, right? Industry, the fourth industrial revolution. From my point of this, it's definitely they are different, right? Look at what we are looking at the fourth industrial revolution compared with the first, the second, the third. It's their difference, right? The difference is many areas. First is there's right now we don't really have one single technology that's singled the fourth generation industrial revolution, like what we had in the first steam power, the second, right, the electricity, the third, the computer. So it's different. But I think let me again give an example again on this. If we can make the industry happen like the example I'm going to give, I think that's going to be a revolution. Let's look at really the printing business, right? From for 100 years, when we finally have the desktop capability to print everything, when the Macintosh hit the market 40 years ago. I think that is really how I look at it, the printing from a physical printing to a digital printing to today. We do everything. If we have to print out a paper or something, before we print the physical output, everything happened in digital form, from design to layout to editing. They're all in digital format until the end. The last step is to print it out. I think look at the industry that we have. If we, in this fourth industrial revolution, if we can apply all those digital technology to make them very similar to this printing business, right? Look at for a 3D printing. I think that's another great example, right? So that is really become transformational, become revolutionary, right? So everything being digital, but at the end of the day, we're still going to have some physical products, right? In terms of, I think that's really from look at from a technology point of view. I mean, we can still look at it from the business model. So I talked to Chris Anderson quite a few years ago about the business model. In the fourth industrial revolution, maybe we're going to see again a distributed manufacturing, right? That's very different with what we have the centralized manufacturing. I think from a technology point of view, from a business model, it will be very revolutionary compared with what we are what we are very familiar with, right, in terms of industries. Yeah.
Dr. Hawken and Dave Vasco, can you cite an example from your own work experience where you saw something new happen and thought, boy, this really is the future. I can really see things changing in a fundamental way based on this particular project. Is there one example that stands out in your experience that really impressed you and convinced you that the future is getting closer?
Sure, I can give an example. So we do a lot of work on regenerative medicine, and regenerative medicine is where you actually generate cells, tissue, or in the future organs, and that is largely done by hand by lots of research scientists in facilities throughout the world. But that is now going to full production. So we actually have tabletop units that are a 5-stage process that will be able to generate tissue and cells, and even some pilot organs that was never possible in the past. That would have taken a 10,000 square foot facility with a few dozen research scientists working to do the same thing, and that's becoming revolutionary. You're going to see more and more. So that's a huge change, where an automatic machine can do those sorts of things on its own, and that machine can be duplicated hundreds of times with the same resources. That, to me, that's revolutionary.
You mean you've got a cure for the broken heart?
We actually not yet, but we have a researcher, Doris Taylor, who is on track. She feels within 5 years to be able to do a first human trial for building somebody a new heart, their own heart, not somebody else's heart, but their own heart. So that's our intent.
That's amazing. Thank you, Dr. Hockett. Any thoughts?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, I've seen really dozens of examples. The one that amazed me the most, these are the ones that go beyond worker productivity. I mean, in most cases, when we discuss digital technologies, it's mainly because to reduce manual work, reduce labor in general. And now then there are some really cool AI technologies that I see in the labs where we work in Aachen, but also with our customers. And one example that I can share, which I think is really meaningful and helpful, is in battery production. Yeah, so the process in battery production has a step in it where you apply a liquid, or actually it's a slurry on a metal plate. And the problem with that is this process is not really stable. Yeah? It could easily fail so that you have some bubbles in there, as an example. And the problem is, as a result, the battery is not really usable. But you will learn this only after a process step that is called aging, where you need to wait for the battery to age for like 1 to 3 weeks. And of course, it's really a problem when after that aging step you discover that the battery is not working, or that the productivity or the quality of that battery is not good. And well, what you can do here is, with the help of AI technologies, that you investigate all the parameters that go into the production step of that slurry application, helping you to create a much better surface on that, which in turn will generate a much higher battery productivity and battery quality. And this is helpful on so many levels. Not only that that the output will be better, that costs will go down, but it will also help sustainability, because the scrap that you produce gets down. And this is one of the super interesting examples to me. And to be honest, this is just one example from battery production, but we see it in so many industries that it has an impact on utilities, raw materials consumption, and so on and so forth. So, but if you would ask me what amazes me the most, then probably it's that battery production case.
Let me move back from the sublime to the mundane, really ordinary things. For example, in the American job classification, I'm sure it's pretty much the same elsewhere, the single most common occupation is driver. More people are drivers than do anything else. And autonomous vehicles can replace a good deal of that. That gives people doing low-skilled labor a chance to do something perhaps more interesting. Or packing and unpacking boxes. That's one of the biggest consumers of labor in the United States. Amazon warehouses, for the most part, look like beehives with people running up and down ladders and running around taking stuff out of boxes, putting them back into boxes, putting them into bins. We've seen some videos showing automated warehouses where machines, robots, pack and unpack things. In terms of replacing mundane tasks with automated equipment, how fast and how extensively do you see that developing? Maybe start with Dave Vasco and go to Dr. Jun and then back to Dr. Hocken.
Sure. We are seeing that robotics, and particularly cobots or collaborative robots, where you're able to work closely with humans, and different types of automation, and even artificial intelligence, is allowing repetitive tasks to be replaced by robotics. And that really frees up people to do more significant things. So we're seeing that a lot. I think you're seeing it where there is a high degree of repetitive tasks, such as the Amazon warehouses, that sort of thing is a great example where you take autonomous mobile robots and they're able to move the elements around very easily. But that's really driven a lot of productivity in those areas. It's interesting. I know that one of the Amazon warehouses, when they added those mobile robots, they had to triple the number of workers to keep up with the robots that were actually moving the packages around. So it doesn't mean that the workforce is going to necessarily shrink. In fact, it's been some indications just the opposite. Those countries that have adopted those technologies have actually increased their workforces, increased their productivity, increased their competitiveness. But that is a huge trend.
Dr. Shen, I saw a video of a Chinese open pit mine where one operator is sitting in an air-conditioned trailer with a joystick and controlling nearly 20 autonomous trucks. We've seen autonomous vehicles used in ports and in mines in China, and of course, Baidu has an autonomous taxi service which has completed hundreds of thousands of rides. Can you tell us something about the future of autonomous vehicles?
Totally. I've been working on the mining side for the last 2 years. I think mining is a very unique. It's a very unique industry compared with others, right? We look at a human in the field, in open mining or even underground mining or the open mining. On the field, human actually is a constraint, right? So a lot of mining system is designed to protect the human because the air quality have to be monitored, right? So the safeties, the supporting structures are there because of the human. So take the human out from the mining field. That is definitely happening, and it's happening faster than we thought, right? So when you take the human out of the mining field, everything actually changed, the process, right? The constraint, because constraints has been taken out from the picture. So we see this a lot in the open mining areas, a lot of autonomous driving. Some of them are remote controlled. So you can see some of them probably are not that type of unmanned driving. Is because of it is really remote control, right? So it's remote control combined with autonomous driving. So not only the trucks, every equipment in the mining field right now, the operator are considering how to take the operator out from the field, from the driller, the cutter, right, to the big trucks. It is happening very fast. So I'm not saying we are not going to see any people in the mining industry. We are definitely, the first step is to take the human out of the mining field, right? So it is here, right? So it's I think the technology is here. Is how to commercialize a lot of those technologies. That's what we are doing here in China.
Thank you. Dr. Hocken, do you want to comment?
Yeah, and I mean, in logistics, a lot of processes have been already automated, and usually it's a processes that are rather simple and where you have a very high capacity utilization. I mean, think of automated warehouses, AGVs. So these are the things where you have a positive business case. Then again, there are some steps that are not that easy to automate, probably because the process is more complex, because the size of the cartons, for example, is changing, or you use that step only very rarely. So I think in these stages, when these processes still manual labor will prevail. Yeah? Let's see if that changes when the technology gets cheaper. But for now, I think to some extent we'll also see manual labor. One thing I noticed very heavily during Corona and now the situation in Ukraine is that supply chain transparency is really becoming a hot topic for a lot of OEMs. So when you look at the big OEMs in automotive, they've set up, let's call them war rooms, where all of the information from their suppliers and transport channels, they have come together, which really helps them to make better decisions and improve and help to really get down problems and deviations in their supply chains.
Let me follow up on that comment. The Internet of Things presumes that you can put a barcode or even an inexpensive chip in almost any product in international trade and track it around the world. You can improve certainly your on-time delivery. You can improve the security of supply chains. How important is this, and how much attention are people giving to it?
So from my perspective, it's getting more and more support. And so as long as you have robust supply chains, which are stable, yeah, you don't need that. But we see a lot of instabilities in the global supply chains. We see that planning and scheduling becomes more and more difficult because suppliers can't deliver or the goods get stuck somewhere in between. So I see a lot of manufacturers shifting towards technologies that help you to track and trace item and to get a prediction on when materials will be on site. Yeah? So definitely this is a very important topic for me that I see emerging over the past 2 to 3 years.
Dave Vasco, let me go to you for the next question. What is preventing all these incredible things from happening faster than they already are? Is it that the technology is still a bit dodgy, needs to get ready for prime time? Is it that the customers simply aren't educated, or you need a new generation of managers to come in with a different kind of education and replace the old people who don't know about this stuff? Are there government regulatory issues? Are investors reluctant to commit capital? What do you see as the bottlenecks to making this revolution happen?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that the standardization is a large part of it. We have all these different solutions, and to have them work together, you talk about AI and machine learning and the communications, both the wired, the wireless, Wi-Fi, and the cellular, and the information itself being transferred throughout the factories. Having the communications and having the standardization of the communications is a critical element. But right now, I think probably the biggest thing for adoption is just the educational element. Large companies can have research groups look into these technologies, see how they can be applied, and really drive benefit from these. If you go to a small or medium company, it's very difficult for them to do this. They can't sit there and experiment with these different technologies. They need to hit the ground running. They need to have technologies they can use today, and they need to know they can work in the future and derive value from that, from productivity, the resiliency, the agility from those. And right now there's a big gap in doing that. We're working with manufacturers to try to bridge that gap, but I think that is the biggest gap in actually achieving these in the future.
Dr. Jun, from at least what I read, of all the governments in the world, the government of China has given the most public attention to technology transformation, the digital economy, and so forth. We heard a great deal about it at the 20th Party Congress. Looking at it within Chinese circumstances, where do you see the obstacles to be overcome to digitizing industry? When you get up in the morning, what do you think? Well, this is the problem I've got to solve to make this happen.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what Dave said, in terms of education. I think I'm down in the trench. So my personal background is from the ICT background. So now talking to the mining operator, the owners, the industries, day in, day out. So what I feel the gap is the digital technology, the industry, especially like mining, right? You think about mining in terms of digital technology, it's really at the very low end of the spectrum, right? If we think about financial technology on this end of the spectrum, agriculture, mining, actually on this end of the lower end of the spectrum. So I think the gap is to how to enable the industry. That is one thing, because of lack of understanding from the industry side. So how to have that consensus, have that understanding, that is one of the very time-consuming thing for us to do. I think the second is what we really feel is sometimes those operators, those industry folk, they want immediate return, right? So some of those digital technology, probably you don't see those return right away. I think how to convince them, to invest, that's definitely another, job we have to do. I think the third one is it's really about the industry. The industry is very different than the consumer market. In China, for the last 20, 30 years, the consumer internet, we did a great job in terms of consumer internet that transformed the society from what we play, we shop, right, everything. But it comes to the industry side, it's very different because the industry knowledge, the industry expertise, they are actually held by those the industry, right? The common folks or even the IT folks, we don't have that, right? We don't have those industry knowledge. So how to combine the digital technology to the industry knowledge, I think that is a great challenge for us.
Let me ask another question from Dave Vasco and Kristen Hawken. If, let's say, one of your customers, manufacturing or logistics company, says, we believe in the revolution, let's give it the maximum effort. Can they find the relevant skills? Are the universities producing the engineers? Can they find the skilled labor? Is that a constraint? Dave Vasco, how do you see the skill situation from what you look at in the United States?
Sure. So, I mean, skills is the major problem. So in the United States, over the last 2 years, we've had 800,000 open manufacturing jobs that we have not been able to fill. People have left, people have come in, but there's been a gap about 800,000. We're predicting that by 2030, that will hit over 2 million open jobs. So the skills is the hardest part. And it's not going to, I mean, the universities are doing a good job. We're seeing a lot of education. We have a technician program ourselves. We're trying to help our customers, but there's a huge gap there. A lot of the people, though, are probably sitting in many of these manufacturing facilities today. We met with McKinsey last week, and they talked about one company who was just taking everybody and bringing them a level up. So you take your operators, you turn them into technicians, you take the technicians, and you help them become control engineers, and you bring everybody a level up. Many of the people in the factories today are underutilized, and automation, AI, these technologies that we're seeing can give these people superpowers and help us meet this productivity gap. But we have to address it. That is the biggest issue we're facing today.
Thank you. Kristen Hawken, how do things look in Europe? from the skills perspective?
Well, yeah. So from what I've heard from David, I'd say it's mostly the same, and we have to really have a close look on the capabilities that are needed. So when I look at our partners in manufacturing, most of them take a value-based approach when it comes to technology. Yeah? And the investments they make for now is mainly into integration, probably an IoT platform. So it's kind of things, and I think these are the skills you can learn. Yeah, it will definitely take you some time to get there, but this is a skill you can learn also as an engineer, because usually it has a strong relationship between a cause and an effect. Yeah, so running a digital project probably has its perks, but it's still comparable to other probably investment projects that you take. Now, where we need to really talk about new capability is when it comes to data analytics. So data scientists are very rare here in Europe. Yeah, we have now more people coming out of the universities who can do that, but it's definitely not enough people. Yeah, and when I look at what's happening right now is that most of the integration is there. So we have the data. So now it's about making something meaningful out of it, and it's not the things we can do out of this really go beyond a simple cause and effect relationships. And I don't think that we are prepared for that yet. Yeah, so there's a huge skills gap in society that we need to close over the next decade.
Thank you. Dr. Jun, what's your experience in terms of being able to hire the skills you need?
I totally agree with Dave and Kirsten said. I think the digital technology is the industry, many of the industry, the lack of this knowledge. I think we put those a lot of responsibilities on us. I think we need to provide those tools or platforms to help in this extent, right? We're not going to wait for everybody get trained. Let me give an example like low code or no code platforms. So we are spending a great deal of effort developing low code, no code platforms to help the industries. Because think about the industry applications or industry software, end of the day, need to be developed by the industries. Those are not real softwares. Those cannot be developed by software engineers, right? So they will need be done by the industry themselves. So we need to provide tools like those low code, no code, platform to enable them, to help them to expedite this process. I think the approach is we have to take on both of the approach to train and also to find ways to to help them. Okay.
If I could build,
oh, sorry, go ahead, please.
If I could build on that just a little bit, Dr. Jun. So I totally agree. I think that's really the future. We're not going to find enough data scientists. I mean, if you look at the trend, the application, we're not going to be able to generate enough PhDs. So it's really maybe instead of trying to create a workforce that's totally AI ready, maybe it's a question of building AI that is ready for our workforce today, building tools that are simple that anybody can apply. I think that's going to be really the enabler that allows us to make these transitions. We can't just always go back and have deep educational backgrounds for a lot of these areas. We have to make our current workers more productive.
Dr. Jun,
yes.
In terms of comprehensive industry solutions, I had read about one of Huawei's initiatives called Mine Harmony. Mm-hmm. Which is an Internet of Things application which tries to integrate all the operations into a single system. Apropos of Dave Vasco's comment, could you give us an example of what that would look like, how it would affect skills, productivity, and so forth?
Thank you, thank you, David, for that. You did a lot of homework. Okay, yeah, that's actually it's not application. Actually, it's industry grade operating system. That's what we call it, Harmony OS for mining. So that really, we look at the operating system. The industry never had an operating system that designed for industries, right? We have operating system designed for cell phones. We have operating system designed for laptops, servers, but we don't really have a specific or dedicated operating system that designed for the IoT era. So I think the industry devices are very different, right? From their usage, their memories, they are very, very different. So how to design an operating system, a real-time operating system that can be applied to most of the devices, if not all of them. So that is something that we have been working on for quite a few years. I think finally we rolled that out first in the mining industries. So that operating system, a modern operating system, really help us in the last few years, really help us with few things. One is in terms of those machines that they can automatically find each other, connect to each other, right? So that's one thing in terms of connectivity. Others is in terms of data collections, right? How to collect data, how to standardize data collections from those operating system point of view. So that has helped us a great deal. I think the other thing that we are really looking at from automation point of view, how some of those functions, automation, those PLC functions, one day we can embed it into this operating system. So I think those industry level operating system, it is so important. And after a few implementations, I think we are very, very confident that's what the industry are looking for, right? So I think as an IT company, that's our contribution to the industry. I think at the equipment level, right? So people talk about IoTs, mainly talk about connectivity, but with this operating system, we can really go beyond just connectivities. Okay, at the equipment level, right? At the equipment level.
Thank you. I'd like to go back to Dave Vasco and to Christian Håkan. Does that sound, Dave, like the application of AI to where people are, as opposed to trying to, you formulated it much better than I did, but basically give people systems that they can use given their existing skill and knowledge level. The idea of an operating system.
Well, I think a common operating system helps to really enable that, to really be able to connect those things, to make those interconnections much more seamless and reduce the friction. And that's going to be a critical part of that. But those common elements and that common understanding is going to be critical to moving those forward.
Christian, do you see anything comparable happening in Europe at the moment?
Well, so definitely not an expert in the mining industry, yeah, to say that. But
in terms of an industry-wide operating system, that concept,
yep, it's probably not so much focusing on an industry, but more like focusing on a new approach. So when we look at the no-code and low-code platforms, I see these becoming much more popular. And what that means is that everybody has the right data available to take decisions, and so that the advent of citizen analysts is something that we see. So it's not anymore the IT department that helps you with preparing things and help you with delivering the right tools, but it's on us to build the tools we need with the help of no-code and low-code platform systems, with the data we need just being delivered and available to us.
Now, we do live in a world of competition and indeed strategic rivalry. And those of us in the United States who look at what people do in other countries wonder if we're being left behind, and sometimes we think we're leaving other people behind. Speaking respectively as German, American, Chinese, when you look at the world landscape, where do you see the fastest progress and where do you expect the fastest progress in the future? Dave, let's give America pride of place in this discussion.
Yeah, it's a good question. I'll be honest, you see a lot of the progress in those areas that are the most challenging. So I think mining is a great example. I mean, like I like to use the example like Galapagos Islands. You look at the evolution that occurs in the Galapagos Islands is because there is so much adversity here. El Nino rolls in and wipes out a huge population. So there has to be evolution to be able to adapt. Compared to San Diego, where the temperature doesn't change much more than 10 degrees through the year. So the same thing, I think in mining, where you see a lot of friction, you see it's expensive to get workers out there to house workers, the safety, you're going to see people adopt these technologies very quickly. Versus areas where things are going okay and there hasn't been many disruptions. We've seen a lot of changes worldwide. We've seen a lot of changes where people say reshoring, but it's really shoring or maybe localization of different technologies, of different production to allow the supply chain to become more resilient. We see that happening throughout the world. So I think it's going to be more on the industry basis, but we see those developments happening throughout.
Christian, how does this look from Industrieplatz Deutschland, manufacturing center of Germany?
Yeah, very good question. So what I see here is that in many industries, integration can be considered done. Yeah? So having that vertical integration between equipment, processes, the systems we work with, this is something companies are after now for the last 5 to 6, 7 years. Yeah, and we're making huge advancements in there. Well, and as I said, the next step for me is about leveraging analysis, leveraging AI. And this is something where we really need to work on, because often enough, it's not that simple. So the value you can get out of that is huge, yeah, in terms of the loss reduction that you see there, for example, in industry that is possible. But then again, often enough, it's an approach that needs to be tailored to the industry or even to a single company. Yeah? And there we need more skills, yeah? and we need to educate people that they take on that journey, because payback and return is something where I won't say you need to believe in it, yeah, but definitely it's not just a simple business case you can calculate. Yeah? And that's where I think education is needed and where we will go to in the next couple of years.
You're saying that management needs a longer term view of the payoff to investment. They need a multi-year horizon more than they've had in the past.
Well, yeah, at least that could be. Yeah. So when I look into AI and the culture we need in terms of just trial and probably fail and trial again, yeah, then that's definitely needed. And often enough, yeah, I mean, it can be that payback is in 1 or 2 years, but can also be that you fail and that you won't see a payback for how long somebody is appointed to the board. Yeah? And this is what's causing problems today. Yeah, because people usually don't want to take that risk, at least not when it comes to very huge investments. And I think that's where more education is needed, and that what probably will also change in the future.
Dr. Chen, Huawei has always prided itself on having a long time horizon for business decisions. How do you see China's competitiveness, relatively speaking, developing in the global landscape?
Yeah, I visit a lot of different industries. Working on the mining side, but spend a lot of times in different industries, factories. I think China is this. When we talk about Industry 4.0, I always make this joke. I say many factories that I visited here in China, many of them are still in Industry 2.5. Okay, some even Industry 2.0, right? So not many Industry 3.0. So the field is very uneven, right? In China. So maybe some of those industries, they can leap over Industry 3.0 from 2.5 to 4. So a lot of work needs to be done here. I think we are also, I mean, as David said, we're taking a very long view about this. We try to understand the industry situation here in China globally. We look at this. The U.S. has been leading on the digital technology for the last 30, 40 years, right? So then Germany has maintained on the industry side, the manufacturing, right, the world leader position. So China, I think we understand the gaps that we have, the challenges we are facing here. Really taking a very long view, how we can take this opportunity. This is really a great opportunity for us, for China, to leap over, right? To leap over how we can converge the digital technology with the industry knowledge, how we can better convert this both. I think this really presents us with a great responsibility. As David mentioned before, I think that's how the Chinese government has been seeing this, right? Look at this is opportunity for us. Right, so we probably missed the industry for 1.0. We missed the 2.0, so we cannot afford to miss the 4.0. Right, so but a lot of work for us, both on the digital technology side and also on the industry side.
Now, I spoke a moment ago about strategic rivalry, but despite all of the strategic rivalry, we see very high degrees of cooperation. For example, the richest man in America, indeed the world, Elon Musk, became that way in part because he was able to build a factory in Shanghai producing 350,000 Teslas a year. I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, that Volkswagen's most productive auto plants are not in Flensburg, but in China. So to what extent do you see, what extent do you observe cross-fertilization, international cooperation to make Industry 4.0 happen? Let me start with Dr. Hawken, go to Dave Vasco, and conclude with Dr. Jun.
Well, first of all, I think there's a lot we can learn from each other in terms of technology. And to be honest, this is what I see every day when working with corporates. Yeah? So the companies I work with who have plants all over the world, they actually do this. Yeah, so there are best practices existing in China, Africa, US, and so on, and they are collaborating on that. Yeah, so they are exchanging those ideas, helping to leverage new technologies in all parts of the world. Yeah? So from looking at the economy and looking at the company level, I think this is already happening.
Dave?
Yeah, so we're seeing a great deal of interaction. So our team at Rockwell Automation, we have engagements and standards for probably 400 different engagements and standards, working together to try to ensure we can actually deliver solutions and use them throughout the world. We don't want to have one solution for the US and one for Europe and one for China. We'd like one solution that works across the world. Things like functional safety, we've worked to collaborate to ensure that we have systems that are safe throughout the world. So there's a great deal of collaboration there to make the entire world more productive. And I can see that continuing much more in the future.
Dr. Jun?
Yes, as Dave said, right? So look at from the automation, the PLC point of view, most of the big PLC system from the car manufacturers to our subway system, mostly are still using technologies from the West, right? So then look at the mining industries. Many, probably 50 or more than 50% of the equipment are from the US, from Germany. So I think at the corporate level, that's going to be the case, right? We are going to have those interactions. We're going to work with each other. As you said, the Harmony OS, those are not going to only work with the Chinese equipment, but they are all going to work with the equipment that manufacture anywhere in the world. I think from the company the industry point angle, or from the technology angle, I think we are going to work together. We're going to work together to solve common problems. Okay.
Well, what I take from this is that in a world of strategic divergence and tensions, technology is pushing everyone towards integration. How that will net out, I've got no idea, but I hope that Asia Times will tell you about it before anyone else does. So my obligatory word from our sponsor is please do subscribe to Asia Times. I have a last question for all the panels, all the panelists. If, like the American fictional character Rip Van Winkle, I went to sleep for 20 years and I woke up and I went to Milwaukee or to Shenzhen or to, I don't know, Esset, wherever, an industrial center. What would I see that would make me say, this is completely amazing. I never would have imagined it. Gustav, do you want to begin?
I can do that. So probably let me come back to one of your first questions. Yes. So what makes a revolution a revolution? For me, it's not so much about the technology, but about the outcome in terms of what it brings to the economy and especially to society. Yeah. So that's what we've seen with the other revolutions. And I think waking up in 20 years from now, looking at companies, we see a completely different way of how we're working with data. Yeah. So democratizing data, helping everybody to take decisions will look differently. The work itself will look differently in terms of safety, yeah, and the different jobs we have to take. But probably most dominantly, the way of leadership and the way organizations are built will change, yeah, following a very different approach than we might do it today. And yeah, I think that will be very exciting, and I'm looking forward to that.
I was hoping you would say that, all I'd have to do is think about it and Alexa would send me a Zachertorte by drone. But anyway, Dave.
Sure. I did a thought experiment around this a couple of years ago. And I think that the way we work will drastically change. So you think about it, we've seen over the last few years, there's no reason most of us have to be in a particular office location. Same with factories. You look at what's happened in mining. Many more people can work anywhere they want. So I would see that the location becoming increasingly less important where you're actually sitting doing the work. We have technologies that allow us to teleport into areas of a factory to see what's happening in the factory much quicker than even if you were in the control room to walk down to see what's happening there, and that can be done remotely. We have ways where people could appear virtually, they're calling it the metaverse, but being able to actually work next to each other using virtual reality and be able to collaborate very extensively. And instead of flying people on an airplane to troubleshoot something or reaching that expert, you could do that just at the drop of a hat and being able to work together. I see that being much more prevalent in the future, being able to build these virtual environments, be able to troubleshoot, try experiments in those. And I think it's going to be a very exciting time.
Well, Mark Zuckerberg might become a titan of industry at the end of all of this.
Possibly, but I don't know there's going to be one metaverse. I think that metaverse will become something that will have many different elements to it, not just one.
Dr. Shun, China has transformed itself almost beyond recognition. The first time I went to China in the late 1980s, it was a very different country than I visited recently. What do you think will surprise us about China 20 years from now?
I think just let me talk about it just from the industry point of view. I think if I wake up 20 years later, 20 years is not a very long time, but a lot of things can happen. I think from the industry point of view, in general, what is going to surprise me probably is going to customize distributed manufacturing. We can make everything being customized, right? From everyday items to even, cars. We can customize everything, individualize everything that we wanted, and with great efficiency, and also can deliver right away, so distributed manufacturing. I think that's in general, the industry will move to that direction. In mining, in specific, I visited a lot of mines. I visited a mine in South Africa, country of South Africa, a few months ago. That's an underground mine, 2,700 meters down. Right? So there's a lot of people working under there. I think 20 years when I wake up, I don't want to see this, right? I just want to, as I said before, I want to take everybody out of those dangerous situations. No matter what we do, when we have people on the mining field, accident will happen. Fatal accident happen every day. So we always call those the coals are bloody coals, right? Or bloody diamond. So I think when we can take everybody out of the field, so that's what I want to see. I think we're going to see it in 20 years. Okay, there's to completely prevent those fatalities in the mining, right? So the mining didn't have a good reputation because of, I think, those fatal accidents. So it is happening, and we are really working with the ecosystem to achieve that. 20 years, probably less than 20 years.
We've reached the end of the hour, but I have one more question I'd like to ask all of you, if you'll bear with us. We've talked about China, Europe, and the United States, but most of the world's population lives in the so-called global south, or third world emerging markets, at much lower levels of productivity. What does the fourth industrial revolution mean for them? Is there a chance for them to come up the economic learning curve much more quickly as a result of digital technology? Dr. Joan, why don't you start, since you brought up the South African example, and then go to Dave Vasco and Christian Hawken.
Yeah, actually, I worked in South America, Latin America for 4 years before came back to China, 2020. So, so visit, as I said, Africa, 7 to 8 countries in the summer, right? Spend about 3 months in the continent. I think this. Both of the continent need to take this opportunity, right, to really transform themselves. As I said, those continent has missed the first industrial revolution, the second, the third, right? They cannot afford to miss the fourth. I think look at, I visited a few factories in South Africa. I was looking at that, I said, hey, look, maybe you should leap over, apply those 3D printing technology directly, instead of trying to redo everything that the developed country did for 200 years. Maybe you don't have to do that, right? Then in terms of energy supply, maybe you should just, in terms of try to rebuild a big complex electricity grid, maybe you should go with the new, new powers directly, right? I think that's the opportunity for them, is to leap over, right? It's not try to repeat everything that has been done for the last 200 years in terms of industry. How to apply the advanced technology that what the US, the Europe, or part of China are looking at, try to bring themselves to that level. I think that's again, my point is it's a great opportunity for them, because those technologies, they can apply directly. Example, look at it. Some of the African countries, they never had a landline phones. They went to cell phone directly, right? So they never had a credit card. They went to mobile payment directly. I think why not from the industry area? They can go to 4.0 directly, right? I think that need leadership, need imagination, and probably need help from other countries. I think it's for them is to grab this opportunity.
Thank you for that, Dave. Take that thought.
Yeah, so I would agree with Dr. Sun on that. I think that's one of the opportunities they have is instead of trying to, where the larger economies, they're trying to replace the existing infrastructure with these new technologies. The developing countries, emerging countries can actually be able to leapfrog across, go to the 5G or cellular technology quicker, make those transitions, and don't try to take those same evolutionary steps that the other economies have taken, but try to leapfrog. And I think that's a great point. We've seen it happen, and I think it's an opportunity for them to really play in this this world market, this connected market, and to be a vital part of it.
Justin, you've got the last word.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so I like the term leapfrogging. I think that's really it. Yeah, there are a lot of learnings and that they can take from the last 200 years in Europe, the US, parts of China. So there's definitely a lot of things to learn. A lot of legacy they don't have here, so they can start from a green field. And that's great. Yeah? So the key is that we really provide that knowledge and help them get going.
Well, gentlemen, it's been a privilege and a pleasure speaking with you. And what I take from this discussion is a message of optimism and hope about what humanity can accomplish. And in a period where most of the economic headlines we read are very negative and very anxiety-ridden, a perspective that some very positive things are in the works if we have the patience and the persistence to apply them. So thanks for making my day, and I'm sure making the day of many of our listeners. Very grateful for your participation. Thank you to the audience. We will continue to cover these as best we can in Asia Times. Wish you all success and a very good day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, David.